Hello and welcome to part four of our series with regard to postgraduate schools, what the process entails, what it's like. We're going to hear, as we have from other families, we're going to hear now from father and son that are now 10 years removed from their postgraduate experience, this time at a school in Connecticut called the Salisbury School. I'll have that link down below in the description of both the podcast as well as our YouTube channel. But again, in 2014, I was living in Louisiana while my boys were going to college in LSU Eunice as well as Vanderbilt. And I was fortunate enough, Coach Tommy Bernhardt and Johnny Blancher had introduced me to a family, the Hebert family. Now, to you and me, being from New England, we look at the last name and we think Herbert, but in Louisiana, it is Hebert. Think Bobby Hebert, and in this case, we're talking with Ronnie Hebert and Riley Hebert. And gentlemen, thank you very, very much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us, Walter.
Very
excited
welcome.
to be here.
Well, I mean, Riley, I've kept watch on you. Now we're 10 years removed from that. I think it was May of 2014, and you were at Catholic in Baton Rouge, great high school in Louisiana. You were a senior in high school, and we had a mutual friend, Mason Coppins, who had been to the Salisbury, who was at the Salisbury School, I believe, at the time in 2014. And I kind of broached the topic of postgraduate opportunity. Do you remember that day? And if you can remember what the thoughts were, what you thought it was like, I'd love you to share that with the student athletes that are watching.
Yeah, so coming from Louisiana, I might have, besides Mason, been the second person who ever heard of a postgraduate year. But some things that stuck out to me were, doesn't get the eligibility clock ticking with the NCAA. Two, after, talking with you more, well, this was going to be a great avenue for someone like me who didn't have a ton of offers coming out of high school. So it's, you get an extra year to recruit again, basically. And then I guess the third thing was I didn't have quite the appreciation for what great academic standing these schools have. For example, Salisbury is one of the Ivy League feeder schools, Ivy League and NESCAC schools in the Northeast. And, that's an awesome opportunity academically and to set up students kind of for long-term success. But yeah, first initial thoughts were, this sounds too good to be true, one. And then two, if it is true, that's where I'm putting all my eggs in that basket.
And Ronnie, do you remember, as a dad during that time, it's one thing to send your child off to college. It's another to send them off to a postgraduate school that you didn't really know a heck of a lot about. But can you kind of summarize what you were thinking as a parent once we thought that Riley was going to have that opportunity to go to the Salisbury School?
Yeah, Walter. Well, it was something very new to me. And in fact, when Riley explained it, I think on the ride home from Baton Rouge, or from New Orleans back to Baton Rouge, he was explaining to me what Mason had explained to him. And he's so excited about it. I was just I couldn't wrap my head around what he was saying. And so we went back to Baton Rouge and I said, Riley, I don't think it's in the cards. I'm not sure what it is and how we're going to do that. And, what's the finances and what's the travel going to look like and how do we do it? And he didn't quite know, but he was so excited. I think a couple of nights later, maybe 4 nights later, he said, Dad, I'm so excited about this. I haven't slept for 3 nights. And that got my attention. I thought, wow, this kid who has a fire in his belly, how do I not put that fire out? And so I started talking to a couple of family members, and I believe it was Riley's grandmothers who offered up a way for Riley to make that tuition and make a call to the East Coast and get him playing some more ball. And once I saw how excited he was about that, we got back with you 1 week later and met with the Coppins and I think Coach Tom Bernhardt and said, okay, tell me one more time how this works. And Robin Coppins, Mason's mom, told me about it. She said, I never thought I'd go to Chicago or Massachusetts for vacation, but she said I go there 2 or 3 times a year, vacationing all the time, and I get to see my kid wherever he is, either playing ball or working up there. So I thought, okay, that's an added bonus. So you know, getting to see him take off from the airport for Salisbury was certainly exciting, and the way it came about was just unheard of, but it certainly paid off in the end, big time.
You know, Riley, now for parents and student athletes that are watching, you know, one of the things I would love for you to discuss, you mentioned NESCAT. Now, I don't know if you were familiar with what that term or that conference or that group of colleges, who they were and where they were located. But when you got to Salisbury, I think, what was your kind of your feedback with regard to, it's a big academic school, it's a big athletic school, but it's a balance of all of the above. In other words, it wasn't just athletically driven. This was an elite opportunity socially, academically, as well as athletically. Can you take us back to being a student and part of the Salisbury School student body, and what that was like for you throughout the course of that year?
Yeah, so academically, much more rigorous than I was used to. I went to a great school, Catholic high school in Louisiana. But what's unique about the post-grad year is you don't have the full course load that you would have your traditional freshman through senior year. So you get to repeat one class for a grade you can put on your transcripts, and then the rest are electives. So the course I wanted to redo, I think it was either Algebra 2 or Calculus at an honors level. Had never done kind of the honors level before because I was very focused on baseball while I was in high school. Before, always had good grades, did well in the classroom, but when I was recruited and talking to Coach John Toffee, he said, if you come here and you give me your best in the classroom and on the field, you will be very happy with the outcomes you have. And just like my eventual coach at UIC, Mike D, said, like, my guarantee to you is not a scholarship. It is, you are going to leave here a better man, ready for the next chapter of your life. And so academics, definitely more rigorous. What's great about the prep school model, especially all boys prep schools, is there are no distractions. You're limited, cell phone use. There's not great signal. So it is just you with a lot of other guys who are super competitive. And that transfers over to not only the athletic field, but also in the classroom. And for me, sitting down with academic counselors, it was, hey, if you get a 4.0 at Salisbury, even if you're just here for a year, that's going to speak volumes to not only coaches, but also admissions counselors. And so as my time went on at Salisbury and was looking at different opportunities, I had initially looked at some of the NESCAC schools because they're smaller D3. But when I looked at the alumni list and kind of how successful they were in their careers after Salisbury and seeing the rigor that goes on in those schools academically, I was really interested. Ended up going to Division I program, University of Illinois, Chicago, for baseball. But I think the just pursuing excellence in whatever you do is really what attracted me to kind of the prep school model and looking at some more academically focused universities.
And Ronnie, I would love for you to discuss the kind of the idea that Riley was allowed to become a college student before he had to become a college student, and it kind of prepared him with regard to time management skills, and that it was okay to prioritize and balance academics, social life, and athletics. But talk about that year as Riley was going through it. You mentioned before we started talking here on air here about the cold, the snow, the phone calls saying, I know they have great indoor facilities, but talk a little bit about that year away from home as a parent while Riley attended the Salisbury School.
Yes, well, when I made the first trip up there with Riley, it was a beautiful, sunny, green hilltop, beautiful campus, historic facilities, and they had been 1 or 2 years into their new mega $1 million indoor facility, which I think had 2 hockey fields and a half a baseball field and weight rooms and just beautiful facilities indoors. But as I left, and then the winter came on, and Riley was working out in the indoor hitting tent and doing what he could in the off season, it started to get real to him that, yeah, this is winter. And when he called and it was time for the new season to start, he said, "Dad, right field's covered in snow." And I thought, well, shit, to myself, maybe I should go get 6 snow shovels and drive up there, you know? So it was exciting to see the sun melting that snow, but they did play with some very wet fields as they started off. And as we all know, all the southern teams get all the northern teams coming down here for their first week in baseball. And just as they did at UIC, Salisbury did the same thing. And it was exciting to see Riley getting to play ball and getting to play ball in a big fashion. When the sun came out, they were having a blast up there, and we read about it every day.
Well, it's great competition. That's in the Founders League. And, now I want parents to understand we're talking about a young man that is 10 years removed from his postgraduate experience. And Riley, I would love for you to share a little bit about what, from a student athlete's perspective. And you really were sharing some great stuff before we went on air here. You're now at Northwestern University pursuing your graduate degree. And a lot of this, stemmed from your high school experience at Catholic in Baton Rouge, then your post-grad year at Salisbury, and then UIC Division I. Talk a little bit about your experience as a Division I athlete, and talk about where you are today with regard to your grad school.
Yeah. So I guess I'll first start with, when I look back at both experiences and from getting to Salisbury to today, I would be remiss if I didn't mention God's plans are far greater
Amen.
than anything I could have ever imagined. He has incredibly blessed me. I have more than I could ever ask for. That decision to go to Salisbury led to an awesome opportunity at UIC that brought me to Chicago. Recently got married, met my wife here, have a great friend and church community here, enjoying, the opportunity to attend Kellogg. But all of that is possible because of, the Lord's hand in my life, but also other people. And, I know I had to put in a lot of work to get here, but there are so many people like yourself, Tom Bernhardt, who threw to me till midnight for basically 2 years straight, 5 days a week at his facility, and was incredibly generous, wouldn't let me pay. He just, out of the goodness of his heart, wanted to help me. Then I look at John Toffey, who is just an incredible coach, mentor, therapist while I was there. Like my dad said, the first 3 months going from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, ton of friends. We live a mile from LSU Stadium, to Salisbury, Connecticut, boarding school, no car, can't leave, all guys. Was a pretty tough transition, but I'll never forget John Toffey going over to his apartment on campus with him and his wife, and because she was in admissions and also helped with like counseling at school. And when I sat down with John Toffey, he said, like, I just need you to burn the boats. Like, you have made the decision to come up here. I know it's hard for you coming from where you came from, but I want you to really lean in and give me your best academically and athletically. And you will look back on this experience in a couple of years with really fond memories. So I'll start there. But to answer your question, at UIC as a student athlete, kind of continuing on from Salisbury, UIC, I chose it for a couple of different reasons. One was great academics. I knew that I was never going to be a MLB superstar. I thought there was like a little smidge chance I could be, because I was, 6'2", 220, like pretty big guy, big lefty power hitter. But going to UIC was academics, and then what does the baseball program look like? And for me, it was, it'd be great to go to LSU or a big name, but I grew up winning baseball, football, soccer, whatever I did. I think I was on maybe one losing team my entire life up to that point. And I had, we won a state championship in Louisiana, Then we go to Salisbury and we four-peated. I wanted to be somewhere where you won. So I had the opportunity to go on a visit to UIC, and Mike D was there for a little over 20 years. 50% of those seasons, he won conference titles. And it was just a winning program there. It was built on 3 pillars: selfless, relentless, excellence. And his big thing was, you're going to do that in every area of your life. I want you to apply that on the field, in the classroom, as a son, as a friend, as a boyfriend, any area of your life. And he meant it. And that's one of the things that comes to mind, is like my fondest memory was him helping build me into a man ready to go into the real world and attack it, and be ready for any challenges that kind of came my way. But as I look on my time at UIC, awesome experience, not without struggles. You know, I basically didn't swing a bat for 18 months. I had double shin surgery a month before my senior season, or before my freshman season. Then I had a bulging disc in my back 6 months later. So my first 2 years at UIC was basically no baseball, a lot of rehab. And then over the following years, did okay. Didn't really hit my goals on the field, but I saw like God molding me into a man and a leader. And so I was a captain my sophomore through senior year, and being humbled into, I would say it was kind of backdoor humility into a role of, you're not going to play a huge part on the field, but like, we need you to help carry the culture here and continue the excellence that's, the people before you have set in motion. Those are kind of some things that come to mind. And then I guess the last thing would be just awesome teammates and coaches. When you're going through it and you're not playing and struggling, and your whole life's been, man, I've just been trying to get here and be successful. I had some awesome teammates, one of which was my roommate, who was a groomsman in my wedding. And then his name's Alex. He's now a strength coach at Wichita State. And then my good friend Reed Burlingmeyer, who is now just finished in AAA with the Rangers. I'm going to his wedding in, I think, 6 weeks. So building lifelong friendships are kind of the things that also stand out. And then since college, I worked for 2.5 years as a product manager at Medline Industries, which was a great company, entrepreneurial role where they say, hey, Riley, you own this business line. You need to increase sales and profitability. Had a great time there. After 2.5 years, wanted to step into something a little more analytical and finance focused. So I spent 2.5 years at GE Healthcare doing corporate mergers and acquisitions. So we would buy and sell medical device and software companies on behalf of GE Healthcare, which is out of the traditional big GE that was the longtime behemoth and conglomerate. And then during my time at GE Healthcare, I started a part-time MBA program focused on finance at Northwestern Kellogg here in Chicago. Did both of those, juggled both of those for about a year and a half. And then recently went full-time school this last summer, did an investment banking internship at Piper Sandler. And then this fall, I'm finishing up school and working at Varsity Healthcare Partners, which is a lower middle market healthcare services focused private equity firm, and looking to go into private equity after school, and hopefully continue coaching baseball on the side and playing in some beer league softball.
I have to tell you, as I listen to you speak, and Ronnie, I would love your perspective. I'm not even your blood relative, and I'm beaming with pride. So as a dad, Ronnie, you have to be sitting here. And I think this is really an integral part to this process that a lot of parents miss, because it's so engaged in the now portion of the athletics. But Riley just talked about a network, a lifetime of relationships. He talked about 10 years of moments and memories. And as a dad, you must look back, extremely proud, but more importantly, the value. Baseball allowed a platform for Riley to grow. And, with God's help and hand and leading. But you look back, Riley is well-spoken, articulate, absolutely, unequivocally an intellectual, and oh, by the way, he was a heck of a baseball player. You must look back on this and say, wow, this has been a heck of a ride, or is a heck of a ride.
Right. And what a ride it was, Walter. There was probably, we might have put 50,000 miles on
I did.
his little truck going through SEC country while he played 2 summers for Marucci's college team, as well as the East Coast White Sox.
Right.
And we went from Vanderbilt to Texas A&M to all over the place, eating and meeting people and having experiences like no other dad in baseball got to have. I was the one getting to have it, and I was the driver, and Riley sitting right next to me. So we had some good father-son conversations. But one thing I'm proud of Riley, he mentioned about God in his life. When he was at Catholic High, he restarted the FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And the head football coach, after he heard Riley give his first talk, he was just like, wow, Riley, that was pretty amazing. And then Riley went from there to Salisbury, where the FCA became alive again. And not only there, he went on to UIC and got his roommate involved, Alex D. And then now he's at Kellogg, Northwestern Kellogg, once again involved in the FCA and whatever other groups they have related to that. But Riley has always kept God as his center, but he's always had that fire in his belly to do something, and God is what has cleared the path for Riley.
Well, wrapping up here, first of all, Riley, I am so happy to have been able to spend this time with you. One thing that for me, that Louisiana really instilled in me was a sense of people being engaged and involved and being in front of people. In the Northeast, it can be a cold, literally and figuratively, with regard to people keeping their distance. We don't hug, or we don't engage in being physically in front of each other. But, I do miss those times of you and I being able to spend together, whether we were hitting or just talking. Tremendously proud of the man that you are and have become. I would love for you to summarize, if you can, that 18-year-old young man and the value that, that Salisbury experience provided you over and above baseball. If you could share with parents and student athletes that are engaged in it today, what's the one or two takeaways that you would say to them that the postgraduate experience, both academically and athletically, will provide them looking back 10 years from there today?
Yeah, I'd say the first thing that comes to mind is it's going to accelerate your manhood. You are going to be forced to grow up quickly. Next thing that comes to mind is just the network of Salisbury. So in this last year, I visited Boston for work and met up with 3 different classmates, 2 of which were on my baseball team, for a quick work trip on the weekend. I went to New York for work and met with a Salisbury alumni who happened to be at the same company that I was interning at for the upcoming summer. And then I think of all the people I still keep in contact with from Salisbury School, past teammates, just friends. And then now that I'm 10 years, removed from Salisbury and about 5 or 6 years into my career, I now have the opportunity to reach out to older Salisbury alum that are in the field I'm interested in for work. And I also, do some tutoring sessions and talk to younger Salisbury alumni who are coming out of school. Riley, can you help me with investment banking, recruiting prep, or just students who are currently at Salisbury who want to know more about, the recruiting process and college and how'd you pick where you wanted to go. And then I think third, so at the school itself, Salisbury is a really special place, and the balance of high academic standards, absolute powerhouse sports wise. You can look on their website, but almost every year, baseball, lacrosse, and hockey are going to win. Then you'll have basketball and football in there as well, but it is a powerhouse, and a lot of coaches want to go there. So whether you're the best player on the team on their baseball team or you're hitting ninth, you're going to get eyes on you, which I think is super important. And, my recruiting story was I'm playing on a team like Marucci and I'm the no name, but I did well in some games where, the A&Ms and the Vanderbilts were there and got some attention that ultimately got me to the next level. And then I think lastly was the staff. The people there are awesome. The teachers, I had never experienced anything like it. Especially in high school, how invested the teachers are in your success. They take time out of their day to come meet with you. If you're struggling, they offer to help you. They're proactively seeking, how can I make my students better? And they just put a ton of time into you and your recruiting process. So I would meet with my academic counselor once a month, for example. He was also the head football coach, so he could give me some tips and tricks for recruiting and some counseling advice for when I was frustrated with why don't I have more offers? Why am I not getting in here versus there? They really bring a full package. And I think my kind of high level last takeaway was it is such an awesome opportunity for those who didn't get the offers they wanted out of high school. They want to go somewhere and refine their skills. For me, it was, hey, I'm going to go put on 20 pounds and get faster, stronger, get more reps as a baseball player, and grow up as a man, to where leaving Salisbury, I came in hot to college and it was, okay, I'm going to have a 4.0 ready and my time management is going to be phenomenal because Coach Toffee taught us how to use a calendar, and you're going to manage every single minute of your entire week on a handwritten calendar. And learning just small things like that really helped me evolve into, a better young man, but more so than being a better young man, ready for what's next and not being behind.
Well, I want to say thank you, for trusting me back in the day. Can't believe it's been 10 years. And I truly appreciate your time. And I want parents to understand this is something that most families will never get the opportunity to experience. It's very exclusive. It's been around for centuries. These schools and the Founders League, of which the Salisbury School is a member of, or the NEPSAC, like Phillips Andover, Phillips Exeter, Winchendon, Dexter, the ISL, Lawrence Academy, Groton, Brooks. These schools have been around for centuries. They have had presidents. They have had children of political families and corporate CEOs from all over the globe. And it is not baseball or sport centric. It is a balance. And Riley and Ronnie Aber, I want to say thank you so very, very much. I look forward to catching up with you again soon. If there's anything I can ever do, please reach out, as you both know, Riley specifically. And parents, I'm going to have all the contact information for the Salisbury School, some of the schools within the Founders League. And this is going to be an ongoing topic throughout the year, a little bit deeper dive into some subject matters that I think offer value for families and student athletes with regard to academics and athletics. Thank you guys very much for taking the time to join me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Walt, for having us. And just a quick shout out, if I can, to you, Walter, to families and students who are watching. Walter did all of this for zero compensation. This guy is passionate about baseball. He's passionate about helping families with recruiting. And I can't thank you enough for what you did for my family and kind of how the trajectory of my life changed just because you cared, and you stepped in. And you can't teach or fake passion and the desire to serve and help people. And I am forever indebted to you, Walt. So anytime you need anything, or any parents or families want to reach out to my dad and myself, we are always available.
It's the power and the value of faith. That's the key, my good man. I can't thank you so much for taking the time to share that with parents. And I hope that you as a parent or you as a student athlete had the ability to hear and feel 10 years of life lived. And the baseball component was nothing more than a platform. It was a horse. that the Abear family chose to saddle up and ride, and it has led them to a really terrific, valuable, great life, both academically and socially. And guys, happy fall. Here in the Northeast, it's getting cold wherever you are. Although Riley, you're in Chicago, you're cold too. But Ronnie, it's not as cold where you are. Guys, thank you so much, and have a great holiday season ahead.
Thank you, Walter.
Thanks, Walt. You
You're
too.
very welcome.